The world is shifting digital and content is definitely the king. With that kind of a future ahead of us, communication should be effective. The art of communicating, what different people perceive it as different things. Some people it might be usage and grip on the English language with complex words. For some it might be voice modulation, for some it might be body language, so for some it might be crisp and concise writing of passages and articles. Is it one or other, or is it a combination of all that has to be improved holistically to be an effective communicator? So I decided to create this video, which is offbeat topic from the usual world of business, finance, and investing that I do in my channel, so that it could if this can help somebody who's looking out there to be an effective communicator and improve their communication skills with the right tools and techniques. And stay till the end because there are a few courses I'm recommending which are really, really life-changing courses if somebody is looking at transforming the lives from a non-communicator to an effective communicator. So let's start with my favorite quote out there on improving communication skills. This comes directly from Warren Buffett, the legendary investor, who went on to say, focus on learning how to write and speak clearly. If you can't communicate, it's like winking at a girl in the dark. Nothing happens. He also went on to say, the one easy way to become worth 50% more than you are now, at least, is to hone your communication skills, both written and verbal. So that's so well said by Mr. Warren Buffett. Now let's get into understand what effective communication means and what are some of the myths there which can be busted now. The first most common myth out there is effective communication is speaking excellent English, which is not true. Effective communication is not about speaking excellent English or any language for that matter. It could be even a great expression that can communicate effectively. The second biggest myth out there is, excellent communication means speaking complex words and phrases. Many of us look at others who use complex words and phrases as very effective communicator, but that's really a myth I want to burst. So take this: excellent communication is not speaking complex words and phrases, but somebody who simplifies it for people to understand easily. That is an effective communication. So if the communication is not about the language or it is not about the complex words, what is it that is making it effective? The first point that we need to keep in our mind is KYA. It's know your audience. That's a key focus that we all should have. So whenever we prepare for any meeting or presentations or any stage talks, we always focus on ourselves, whether we will do it right, whether we can use this body language, whether we can use this kind of a flow, but rather the focus should be shifted towards the audience. It's all about audience. It's not about you. If when we are presenting, it's not about us, it's about the audience who is the listener. Now owe it to your audience. Know what they are looking for or expecting and deliver that message specifically. Example, if it's a meeting with your client, being in client shoes and thinking about, really helps. It's called customer empathy. It's a very profound design thinking concept. And so, knowing your audience is the key focus of communication. Okay, now you know the audience, you know what they're expecting, you know what kind of message you need to deliver, but how do you deliver the message? So when you're focused on the audience instead of you, and when you're focused on the message, it's very simple, four C's that you need to remember. It's not the language, medium, and words that is crossed on the right side, but it's on the four C's on the left side that's the most important to deliver your message. The message should be clear, should be correct, it should be crisp, it should be creative. And creative may not come into all aspects of communication, but mostly the creative part of it helps. So it's about audience, it's about the four C's of communicating the message. Now let's get into how to communicate that message. What are some of the best methods, best practices out there to communicate those messages effectively to your right audience? It's called the art of narration and articulation. So there are four aspects to this, four dimensions to this. The first dimension is storytelling. Stories captivate audience. That's the best way of narration. It engages audience till the end. It stays in audience mind forever. We all love listening to TED Talks. How many of our TED Talks we listen to, we are not bored. If you observe TED Talks, there is always a format which is underlying common denominator is storytelling. And that is so prevalent, it registers in people's mind forever for a long period of time. So storytelling is one dimension of it on effective articulation and narration. The second aspect to it is a visual design, which captures attention and simplifies understanding. A same message can be delivered in different format, but a visual graphics, a visual design to an image, a video, an example would capture people's attention and it simplifies understanding. That's the most important thing. The third dimension to it is design and creativity compounds. So, designing the message in the right framing techniques, which was introduced by behavioral economists, which I will create a different video on that. So, designing your message in the right techniques and right formats is very important. And with a lot of creativity around it, it's even more important to get registered in people's mind. The same message, put it in a simplified format, would thrive. So simplicity thrives, creativity compounds. This is something we need to keep in mind. And finally, articulation in a flow state. This is very time consuming process. It takes a lot of practice to get there without stammering, without murmuring, without a lot of thoughts. If you have to articulate in a flow state, it has to be practiced over and over, which is one of the effective way of communication because the audience is with you in the flow state. Now, quickly on the listening and thinking, which we not covered, two most underrated aspects of communication, which is very important. John D. Rockefeller listened far more than he talked in his meetings and believed in the strength of silence, listening, thinking, and observing. Rockefeller often recited a poem about his silence when asked. A wise old owl lived in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why aren't we all like that old bird? So true and so powerful recitement by John D. Rockefeller just talks to emphasize the importance of listening and thinking. So it's not just verbal, but more to the wheel of communication. If you consider communication and effective communication as a wheel, it has all these spokes. It has a visual, body language, verbal, writing, articulation, voice modulation, listening, thinking, visual, everything put together has to be improved holistically if you want to be an effective communicator. So, how to improve communication, how to improve all these aspects together? It's practice for continuous progressive improvement, 1% daily. We cannot take all and practice and get better at all in one shot. Every aspect needs to be dealt separately and improved 1% daily. Just target that in a progressive manner, continuous manner, which would really help achieve that. So, what are some of the best practices out there? Write down the script before the event, before a meeting, before a presentation, before a audience addressing, whatever that is. Write down the script. Rehearse it prior to the event or meetings or presentation to get smooth articulation or a flow. Visualize the event and delivering best communication prior to the actual event. We need to really, it really helps. Something I practice every time is to visualize the event and you talking about it, delivering the best communication out there, and doing a rehearsal in your mind, which would really help, or in front of a mirror. Finally, fourth one is practice, practice, and practice for continuous steady improvement. Make progressive improvement every day, 1% daily. Finally, compounding works even there. So, as committed, there are two courses I'm recommending for beginners who are starting with. It's the Dale Carnegie course, Effective Communication and Human Relations. This was recommended by Warren Buffett, who himself took this, which made him a prolific public speaker, which was a life changing event for him. The second one is How to Visualize Value. It's a little advanced version. If you want to look and bring your creative juices in, if you want to improve your creative way of communicating through design, this course would help. It's How to Visualize Value, the 0 to 1 guide for simple, impactful design. And it's by Jack Butcher. This course is very famous and it's worth doing this course. Third is a book, The Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, written by Robert Cialdini. It's just recommended by many famous people, including Charlie Munger in many of his college addresses. So wanted to bring this so that it can take somebody, it can be transformational for someone who's looking to change their lives from a non-communicator to a very effective champion of communication. Thanks for staying with me until this point. Do subscribe. Until then, Sandeep Anand.